The year 2025 opens with the world's gaze fixed on the vast expanse of the Pacific, a region that has become the epicenter of global attention and strategic calculation. Here, beneath the surface of calm waters, a storm of geopolitical change is brewing, one that will shape the destinies of nations for decades to come. A seismic shift is quietly, yet powerfully, reshaping the global balance of power. Old certainties are fading, and in their place, new security pacts and alliances are emerging, often in unexpected forms. This transformation is driven by two powerful forces: China's rapid ascent as a global superpower, and the United States' increasingly unpredictable foreign policies, which have left even its closest allies questioning their future security. Once sheltered under the broad umbrella of American security, nations like Japan, South Korea, and Australia now find themselves compelled to chart their own course. They are forging independent defense strategies, investing in new technologies, and deepening regional cooperation. Instead of relying on grand Cold War-era treaties, we now see the rise of agile, focused pacts. These new agreements are designed to address a spectrum of threats, from the invisible dangers of cyber warfare to the very real challenges of maritime security and territorial disputes. This is the Trump-proofing of Asian security, an era where nations prepare for a future in which U.S. support is no longer guaranteed, but conditional and subject to change with every election cycle. Allies are no longer passive participants. They are becoming architects of their own defense, taking bold steps to ensure their sovereignty and stability. Across the Pacific, countries are weaving a complex patchwork of alliances and partnerships. They are bridging vast distances and diverse values, united by a shared determination to counter rising authoritarianism and preserve regional order. This essay explores the motivations, challenges, and far-reaching implications of this new era of alliances, one that will not only redefine Pacific security but also shape the future of global stability. At the center of this unfolding drama is China, led by Xi Jinping, whose ambitions for regional dominance are reshaping the balance of power in Asia. With the world's largest navy and a rapidly modernizing military, China is projecting strength far beyond its shores, signaling its intent to become the preeminent force in the region. Nowhere is this more evident than in its focus on Taiwan, a vibrant democracy and a global technology powerhouse sitting just across the strait. Taiwan faces relentless threats of invasion, which not only shape its national identity but also drive it to forge stronger alliances with like-minded nations, determined to defend its sovereignty and its vital role in the world's tech supply chain. Meanwhile, the United States, under a renewed America First doctrine, is re-examining the costs and commitments of its global alliances. This shift has sent ripples of uncertainty through the region, leaving traditional partners like Japan and South Korea questioning the reliability of American support. In response, Japan, under Prime Minister Fumio Kishida, is moving away from decades of pacifism, embarking on a significant military buildup and redefining its role as a security provider in Asia. South Korea, caught between the unpredictable threats from North Korea and a less dependable America, is recalibrating its defense strategies and seeking new partnerships to ensure its security. Australia too is adapting, deepening its security ties through the AUKUS Pact, acquiring nuclear-powered submarines, and signaling its commitment to a free and open Indo-Pacific. The Philippines, after years of wavering, is pivoting back toward the U.S., granting expanded base access and reaffirming its strategic importance in the region's security architecture. Even nations far from Asia, like Lithuania, are being drawn into the fray, signing a security pact with the Philippines after facing Chinese pressure over its support for Taiwan, highlighting how these tensions are reverberating globally. Each of these actors is rewriting the script of international relations daily, as questions of power, sovereignty, and the very future of the global order hang in the balance. The alliances and partnerships forming now are not just regional, they represent a global response to China's growing assertiveness, with countries from every continent watching closely and preparing for what comes next. The stage is set for a new era of strategic competition, where every move is watched, and the stakes could not be higher. China's Indo-Pacific strategy is clear: establish itself as Asia's preeminent power, with Taiwan's unification as a non-negotiable goal. Beijing intensifies military and economic pressure on Taiwan, including near-daily airspace incursions. In the South China Sea, China militarizes artificial islands and confronts neighbors like the Philippines, using gray zone tactics just below open conflict. These moves aim to create irreversible control over contested areas, challenging international law and freedom of navigation. China frames its actions as defensive, countering what it sees as US-led encirclement. But for its neighbors, these are aggressive threats to sovereignty and regional order. The result, a region on edge with every move watched and countered. For decades, US commitment anchored Indo-Pacific security, but the America First doctrine has upended this foundation. Alliances are now seen as burdens, not assets, and US demands for greater allied spending have shaken trust. The Biden administration offered reassurance, but renewed isolationism has left allies planning for a future without guaranteed American support. Nations like Japan and South Korea are accelerating military modernization and exploring new defense options, including advanced strike capabilities. The US pivot, meant to reduce its burden, may create a more armed, multipolar Asia, one where conflicts could escalate without a steadying superpower. Allies are Trump-proofing their security, deepening ties with each other and preparing for worst-case scenarios. The region is recalibrating, with former security consumers now taking charge of their own defense. This shift could deter aggression, or make Asia more volatile. The stakes for peace and stability have never been higher. Indo-Pacific nations are building a new security architecture, not a single alliance but a network of flexible, overlapping mini-alliances. The Lithuania-Philippines Pact exemplifies this trend. Democracies uniting across continents to counter authoritarian threats. The AUKUS Pact and U.S.-Japan-South Korea cooperation provide advanced technology and intelligence sharing, forming the backbone of this network. Calls for a formal Pacific Defense Pact are growing, with advocates arguing that only collective defense can deter China's ambitions. Asian nations, once wary of provoking China, now see unity as essential. The risk of inaction outweighs the risk of provocation. Countries are banding together to create a united front. These alliances mark a fundamental shift: peace through collective strength, not dependence on a single superpower. The region's security is now a shared responsibility. New alliances are matched by surging military spending and sweeping strategic shifts across the region, as nations reassess their security in a rapidly changing world. Japan is doubling its defense budget and acquiring long-range strike capabilities, marking a historic move from a strictly self-defense posture to one of active deterrence. This shift signals Tokyo's growing concern over regional threats and its willingness to play a larger security role. South Korea, amid political turmoil and rising regional tensions, is openly debating whether to pursue its own nuclear weapons, as public faith in the U.S. security guarantee appears to waver. The debate reflects deep anxieties about North Korea and the shifting balance of power. The Philippines has granted the U.S. expanded base access, allowing American forces to respond rapidly to crises in the South China Sea or Taiwan Strait. This move strengthens the U.S. presence and signals Manila's intent to bolster its own security. Australia, meanwhile, advances with the AUKUS Pact, building nuclear-powered submarines and even debating the possibility of its own nuclear arsenal. Canberra is recalibrating its defense strategy to meet new challenges. These moves reflect a region arming for deterrence, but they also risk fueling a dangerous arms race and increasing the chances of miscalculation or accidental conflict. Each nation's defensive step can be perceived as an offensive threat by its neighbors, creating a spiral of action and reaction that is difficult to control or reverse. The security environment grows more volatile as countries hedge against uncertainty, investing in new technologies and forging new partnerships to protect their interests. The hope is to deter aggression and maintain stability, but the danger of escalation and unintended conflict looms ever larger in the background. The Indo-Pacific is preparing for peace, but at the same time, it is bracing for the possibility of conflict, caught between hope and uncertainty as the strategic landscape continues to evolve. From Beijing's perspective, new alliances and military buildups look like a campaign of encirclement led by the U.S. China sees a NATO of the East forming, aimed at containing its rise and influence. Its military modernization and South China Sea bases are framed as defensive measures to protect sovereignty and vital trade routes. Taiwan remains a core issue. Beijing views foreign support for the island as interference and provocation. As Japan rearms, the Philippines hosts U.S. forces and Australia acquires nuclear submarines, China feels increasingly besieged. This fuels a narrative of national defense, prompting more assertive actions to break the perceived encirclement. The result is a dangerous feedback loop. China's moves alarm neighbors who then strengthen alliances, further heightening tensions. the region risks being locked in a cycle of escalation and mistrust. In 2025, the Indo-Pacific stands at a crossroads, with new alliances reshaping the global balance of power. The world is now multipolar, divided between democratic and authoritarian blocs. Optimists hope these alliances will deter conflict and force diplomacy, creating a tense but stable peace. Pessimists warn of a tinderbox rapid militarization and hardened alliances could turn minor incidents into global crises. The web of alliances could either prevent war or act as a transmission belt, pulling nations into unwanted conflict. The future depends on whether these structures build bridges or walls, on leaders' choices between dialogue and confrontation. The world watches, hoping for peace, but bracing for the consequences of miscalculation.